Hey, happy Friday morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of On Pattison Podcast. So happy to be with you on this beautiful Friday. I'm Bob Cooney, joined by Anthony Sanfilippo after another long week of Philadelphia sports. How you doing today?
Oh, this is a heck of a day for me, Bob. You know, up early here, doing the show with you. I had some editing to do this morning. We got Flyers practice this afternoon and Rick Tocchet availability. Then I'll be going down to the ballpark for some Phillies, Colorado Rockies action tonight. It's a heck of a day. More hockey tomorrow. It's just one thing into another. But it's fun. It's exciting time if you're a fan of Philadelphia sports.
Yeah, you're a monster. Like I pride myself on that. I don't need a lot of sleep, and I'm fine. And I haven't slept a lot in my life. But you're even like last night. I got done writing probably around 2 a.m. I set my alarm for 7 p.m. as opposed to 7 a.m. So I rolled over at like 8 o'clock, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm behind the 8 ball already." I've already been at the computer for like a few hours already.
That's correct. I was at my computer at 6 a.m. this morning. Yes.
All right. I don't know if that concerns me or if it makes me jealous or what it is, but that's why On Pattison is what it is.
Dedication to my craft, Bob. Dedication.
Is that what it is?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there was a couple of teams in town last night that weren't too great at their crafts. Let's see. Combined score last night, 16-2.
Yeah, something like that.
Down in South Philadelphia, Flyers, of course, losing to the Carolina Hurricanes by a score of 4-1. Phillies lost 12-1 to the Oakland Athletics. I forgot there for a second. I was driving into the Flyers game last night, and Andrew Painter, after 4 batters, was down 4-0.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it was 7. Like I think you gave up 7 or 8 right after in 2 and 2. I give up 7 through 2. I think after Mattingly wanted to pull him, and he said, "No, I want to go back out there and give up another run after that." So, not good stuff going on down in South Philly last night. But I think we probably have to start with the Flyers, Bob, because
I think that's where we're going to go. And you talk of starts, and it's something that I wrote about that we just posted on Pattison. Yeah, the Flyers got off to a good one, Ant. And the thing that killed them, was the power plays. Theirs isn't good, and this is what you wrote about. And Carolina just is the better team, especially when the teams aren't at 5-on-5. But the Flyers started out; they hit 2 posts early. You had a couple 2-on-1 breaks. You had some weird things going on, even when the game was tied. Where I believe it was tied, but anyway, where Bonk goes into the crease on a pass, tries to, have a tip in there, goes into the crease, he's on his butt there. Well, Carolina tries to clear out, so nobody's paying attention to him. He's back with the goalie, and the puck gets stolen by Martone up at the point, and boom, there's Bonk right in front, and he gets a pass, and he's like, one-on-one with the goalie within feet. It was almost like he didn't know what to do. He gets stoned, but the Flyers did have that good start, and if maybe kind of sort of 1 or 2 of those things go in, could it have been a different game, man?
Yeah, it really could have. And that's the thing, Bob, and that's been their bugaboo really all year. But if you really want to say in this series specifically, they've had their opportunities, especially in games 2 and 3. Like they just had them. And they were not able to get, cash in on enough of them. In game 2, they scored the 2 goals early and then never got that third one. And you just knew if they would have gotten that third one at some point, they win game 2. And they just couldn't find it. And then in game 3, look, if they cash in on one of them and get the lead, it changes the whole dynamic of that game. And, Konechny hits the post, Martone hits the post, Bump had those 2 chances, the Ristolainen shot that gets through Anderson, but Slavin grabs it just before it crosses the blue line. All of those plays, that's 5 plays right there in the first period. One of them goes in, you're happy. 2 of them go in, you probably win that game too, right?
Yeah.
But that's the difference between a team like Carolina, who knows how to win this time of year, and who's going to advance to the conference final yet again, right? That's the difference between them and the Flyers, who don't know how to do it right now. and that's just where we are. And it's not a horrible thing for this organization. You're happy that you got this far, but you have to understand that there's going to be frustration. And fans have that frustration, and it's understandable. Like, you want to see them win. Everybody wants to see them win. And it's just like simple little plays here and there can swing the difference in a series. They're down 3-0, and this series has not been dominated by Carolina. Like, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Carolina, maybe game 1, they dominated.
Yeah.
Games 2 and 3, the Flyers could have won either one of them and didn't. And that's just an unfortunate thing for them.
Did I get my bonks and bumps mixed up?
I fixed it for you. Don't worry about it.
No, I mean, just talking now, and then I realized I might have done that in the story too. It's
you wrote it. Yeah, it's so easy to get those two names. Like, it's a good thing they traded Bobby Brink, because could you imagine if we had Bump, Bump, Bunk, and Brink all together on the same team? That would have been crazy.
Yeah, Sixers only go 6 deep or 7 deep, so it's easier to remember those names, Anthony. But I thought it was ironic and almost a little bit telling about last night's game. Overtime, game 2, Travis Konechny gets a clean breakaway. Misses, says after the game, I got to get that one. I got to get that one, and put it all on himself. Early last night, you look up, and there he is. Clean breakaway, Konechny again. And we had enough time for a second and a half to think he's got to bury this one, and boom, hits the post. Martone goes in alone, boom, hits the post. You could just kind of feel, or maybe not feel, you could hear that little pinhole in the balloon, and the air just kind of like starting to come out a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I really felt it. I felt that they were completely snake bitten on the wrist of line in one, because if that puck goes in, I think that changes it too, right? Like, okay, we hit a couple posts, that happens in hockey, okay, whatever. But when you have that shot, and when you're struggling to score, and you have that one that gets through the goalie and looks like it's going to go in, and then just at the last second, a defenseman pulls it out of harm's way, like that to me is when you know that it's not your night. Things are not going your way. I actually turned to the guys I do snow the goalie with and said, not going to be their night tonight when that happened. You just know those instances more often than not end up with a negative result. So, Bob, the thing, we're talking about the those chances, and it's all true. Your story is spot on. It's accurate. I implore everyone to go read it on Pattison. But the thing to me that I think is the be all end all of this Flyers team this season, and it's come to a head here in the in this series, is the power play. Yeah, and the power play is supposed to be an advantage for you. It's supposed to be something that gets you score. The best teams score on it 1 out of every 4 times, or if not better. But 25% is considered really good, right? 1 out of 4 times. The Flyers are 3 for 33 this postseason on the power play. That's 1 in 11. That's terrible. Okay. Yeah. Not only that, they give up a shorthanded goal last night, so it goes backwards against them. It ends up, and to hear Rick talk it last night, and I was like kind of flabbergasted that he said it, but he said, we want to play 5-on-5. We're not equipped for all these penalties, right?
Yeah.
Like, who would prefer? Like, it's crazy to me, although I don't think he's wrong, but it's crazy to me that as a coach of a hockey team, you would rather play 5-on-5 than have a power play.
Right. Yeah. When he said that in the press conference last night, Ant, I swear to God, the first thing that went through my head was, I would love to be a basketball coach and go 5-on-4. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I mean, let's equate it to that also. You have the extra minute. You've been around all season. I've been around there for them for the playoffs, and of course, watched them all. To me, now I know they don't have the guys to be on a power play. I mean, you have Verstalainen up on a point where he shouldn't be on a power play, and I think Tocchet alluded to that last night. But to me, when they finally do get set up, are they just looking for perfection? It seems like it's, and I'm not one of these, Hoagie Mouse in the stands, shoot. I'm not saying that, but it does seem like they're looking for perfection a little bit. Maybe it's just these two playoff series, but a little bit too much to me when they do have the man advantage.
Yeah, I do think I don't think that they have anyone on the power play. Well, there's two things that I think are a problem with the power play. One, I don't think they have a good enough shot from the point. Drysdale is their best shot from the point, but even he doesn't have a great one. I think his shot gets better a little bit closer to the net. You get him out the top of the circles, top of the slot, firing a shot from there. I think his shot is really good. When you get it from a little bit further back, closer to the blue line, it's not heavy enough. It just isn't heavy enough to get through traffic and get on that, and that's part of the problem. The second part of it is they don't have anyone with a killer instinct to score on the power play. They're all trying to be too cute with one extra pass.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's try and get this guy open. I don't want to take that shot. Let me try and get this guy open. And it just ends up going against them. And I think that's where the problems are. I mean, you watch their power play once they're set up. And the other thing is they struggle to get into the zone and get set up. Right. But once they get set up, I think that they move the puck well. I don't think that they are a poor passing team.
No.
Right. I think they move the puck okay. They just, when it gets to that point where it's like, should I be the guy who shoots it, or should I try to make one more play? I think they always make the wrong decision. Whether it's should he shoot it? Yes. Oh, he makes the pass. Or, oh, he should make the pass because there's a guy wide open here, and either makes a different pass or shoots it when he shouldn't shoot. It's not having the right hockey IQ for the moment. And I think that it kills them. And then you look at a play, and look, Drysdale's been great for them this year. He's been really good in the postseason, so it's hard to kill the guy, right? But he makes a bad play on what ends up being the shorthanded goal for Carolina last night.
Yep.
And he's trying to make a play. He's trying to force the issue because they're pressing so much. Normally, if your power play is going at a normal pace, at a normal rate, he just probably goes and gets that puck, pulls it out of the zone, right? Doesn't try and make a play, resets, and goes back in another time. Instead, he tries to force the issue. It doesn't work. Carolina gets a 2-on-1, and they score a shorthanded goal. That's a killer. That's a killer. That how that switch is flipped in that moment, that kills them.
Yeah. And it's funny. I was always taught in sports, 50-50 ball, 50-50 puck or whatever. That's yours. Yeah. Get it. That's yours. That puck last night was kind of a 60-40 Carolina puck. Yeah. But like you said, because of the instances, because of what was going on, Drysdale figures, all right, let me go poke it and get it in, keep it in the zone. And then it was Stahl, right? It was Stahl who poked it out, gets it free, 2-on-1, boom, goal, down 2-1. I mean, you're right, Ant. That was just a killer, but understandable that he was trying to make that play.
Well, sure. I mean, again, it's understandable in the sense that they're all trying to make a play, right? They're all trying to do something, and it's leading to poor decision making. And I think it's they feel the pressure. And you heard talk about it last night. They're anxious, right? They're nervous that they're trying to do something outside of themselves. They feel they need to be the guys to make something happen rather than just trust what they're doing. And I asked Drysdale about it after the game, and I put a quote in my power play story today from him where he's basically saying that they get away from what the game plan is, and they kind of freelance a little bit, and they can't do that because that's where they get themselves in trouble, because they're trying so hard to do something outside of themselves.
Right.
And that's where it ends up. And Bob, it's coming back to, we knew all along, right? I mean, this power play has been the worst in the league for 5 years. This isn't a surprise, right? They were 15.7% in the regular season, which was worse than the NHL. Mm-hmm. And yet that 15.7% is the best that they've been in the last 5 years. Wow. So that's just shows how long this has been a problem. And it doesn't matter who the coaches are or who the players are. It's a problem, and it needs to be fixed. They need to get better talent in here to do it. It starts with a power play quarterback and goes from there. But my goodness, is it being, it's the difference. And we have some comments in here, and I couldn't disagree more with Chris, who says Carolina outscored center 7-3 after 3 games. Flyers being outscored 10-3 after 3 games. The series is not close at all. I disagree. Games 2 and 3 have been very close and could have gone a completely different way. And Larry, yeah, I'm saying they don't have a chance. They don't. But I've said that before the series even started. I had Carolina in 5. And then Chris again says playoff Risto has been disappointment. I don't know how you could say that. Ristolainen and Sanheim have been fantastic in these playoffs. I mean, I think Risto had a rough game 2. I think it was a game 2 or game 1 or game 2, whichever one it was. I forget. He wasn't the best. But aside from that one game, he's been really, really good. So whatever, there you go.
And he's another guy that you're asking, I don't want to say asking him to do too much, but would you at the beginning of the season thought, okay, he's a defenseman that needs to give us 25 minutes a night. If you're the Flyers, was that their thought? Oh, he's going to give us 25 minutes a night come playoff time. Probably not, right, Dan?
No.
He's getting out on the power play also.
Yeah, that pairing has been so good for them. They've been so good. And it started with both of them going to the Olympics and playing well in the Olympics. Well, let's be honest. I mean, Ristolainen was the best player for Team Finland, best defenseman for Team Finland in that tournament. Sanheim was the number 7 defenseman for Canada, but then ended up having to play because of injury to Josh Marcy. And once he did, he was really good. And so when you're sitting there saying you're one of the best defensemen in Canada, right? Like, if I think about that, he was put on the Canadian Olympic team. Like, these are 2 really good players, and they've come out of that and been sensational for the Flyers. Yeah, they just both guys have been really, really good. And Ford, I just wanted to respond to something. Ford's like, Risto's been good. Not sure what Chris is watching. I got to just say to Ford, Flyers fans have a tendency to overreact to everything. Right. And so I can't tell you how many people in my comments on the Press Row show last night were burying the Flyers. This guy sucks. That guy sucks. They do that because that's just what Flyers fans do. And I get it. You understand people are in the moment. It's raw emotion. But in reality, Ford, you're right. Like, he's been good. He's been really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at the bulk of Flyers fans, probably 10% were around when they won the Stanley Cup. There's some that saw the 10 final run. Many saw the 10 final run, but then before that, it was the 80s. Like, I mean,
right.
The frustration is so understandable. But I want to get back to the coaching a little bit. You talked about the power play, and you said it doesn't matter the players, it doesn't matter the coaches that they bring in, they just can't get it done. How can that be, Ant? Like how can that be? That just doesn't seem logical at all. And aren't there power play specialists out there that the Flyers, who are considered this elite organization, that they could go out and get and bring in and try to get this done?
I don't know who those guys are going to be, because free agency is going to be so not great this offseason. Like, all the big name free agents re-signed with their teams. Free agents, I mean, normally July 1st is a big day in the NHL, and we all we're glued to our phones and to the social media to see who's going where, what's happening, blah, blah, blah. It's players down your lineup this year. It's not anybody big. So when you keep hearing Rick Tocchet talk about, well, we're going to fix that in the offseason, and he means that by personnel, unless they're making a trade for somebody that we're not aware of that's going to help this team, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. Like, I mean, it's really those things that I mentioned earlier that they don't have, and I'm not sure that those players are available this offseason. So I don't know how you fix it. I mean, if you're coming back next year with the same guys, other than getting Martone a little bit more experience, okay, right. I mean, he's going to be a guy for you, and Forster getting back to being himself, okay, maybe you get a little bit better because now you have a couple of guys who are goal scorers playing on your power play, and Zegras is pretty good at setting them up. If you have Mishkov out there, he's pretty good at setting them up. Okay, fine, so you'd be a little bit better, but I don't know, you need more than just that. You need a couple other guys, and they don't have them, and I don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah, I don't want to make this an obituary show when it comes to the Flyers. Like I even wrote that in my notes. Let's not do that. So I'm not going to be like, well, where should they go in the future? Because you and I will probably do that maybe next Tuesday or next Thursday or something like that.
One of these days.
But I do want to. The thing that has impressed me covering these guys a little bit with you during the playoffs has been Tockett's honesty about what his club is. And you mentioned it earlier that he said, they just get out there and they get antsy. And he didn't say it in like a derogatory way as much as he was saying it as an honest way, if that makes sense. He was really saying, like, look, there's a lot of young kids on this team, and they haven't been through this before, and they're just showing it. And we have to teach them, and we have to get them over that. And being in these playoffs is going to be the best teaching lesson. But moving forward, Rick Tocchet, do you feel like he has the handle of this team? Is he, we saw what they did this year. And I'm not saying should he be fired at all, and I'm just trying to ask you a question so that people know how he fits with this club and with this organization and the kind of job that he's done and is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we talked about this on the show last night. There are a lot of things, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are things with any coach that you are always going to question, right? Mm-hmm. Decisions coaches make, whether it's a manager in a baseball game or, a rotational thing in basketball or a play called in football, or how guys are deployed in hockey. Like there's always going to be something that you're going to end up criticizing the coach for. What you need to measure coaches and managers on, in my mind, is how they get their players to buy into what they're doing.
Right.
How they manage personalities, right? That's ultimately what makes a coach good or not good. And to get this team to overachieve like it has tells you that Rick Tocchet is good at getting players to buy into what he's saying. And so I still think there is the jury's still out ultimately on, is Rick Tocchet the right guy to get them to be a Stanley Cup caliber team? I don't think that question has been answered yet, nor do I think it will be answered next year either. I think we're still a couple years away from determining that. But I think that Rick Tocchet has answered the question of, can I get these guys to believe in themselves and believe in what we're preaching and be a team that can be in the playoffs and be competitive? Yes. And so the first step of the coaching of what coaches need to do, I think, has been a success. And just like I say, the first steps of what Danny Briere has had to do as a general manager have been a success. But once you get to this point, Bob, and now going into next year, you cannot go backwards, right? Now going into next year, everybody's going to want this again. All right, we got the taste of it. We got it back. This is cool. Right. Flyers hockey in the playoffs. Awesome. What are we going to do next year? They have to take that next step forward. If you go sideways or go backwards, that's an indictment on the coach and on the general manager, fair or not. That's what it becomes. So I think that it's good to this point. I give him good marks to this point, but we have to still see what's to come.
Sure.
And I'm not going to sit here and blindly tell you, oh yeah, this guy's a great coach, and this was the right hire. He'll be great for the next 4 years. We don't know, but I think that for the first step, he did a really good job.
Yeah, and if you look at these playoffs kind of in a microcosm and then add it to what it might be moving forward, we have to remember, and fans have to remember, Noah Cates, one of their best all-around players, not being there. We all suspect it's probably a broken foot or something like that.
Yeah.
Owen Tippett, he's my favorite Flyer. He really is to watch. Just big, strong, immovable, and with the shot that he has. Now, Ann, I don't have any inside information on what he's going through. Just from my experience of sports, I assume he's fighting through something that either he wouldn't be fighting through during the regular season to try to play, or it's a case that he's going to have to get fixed during the off season. That's just, a general assumption on my part, watching what I watch.
That sounds like a veteran reporter's experience.
Well, yeah, it's probably a lot of veteran fans out there who have the same take on that. But you look at Michkov, another year with him. Hopefully he has a better offseason, and I'm sure he will than he did last year. Porter Martone, young kid who just got thrown into the fire and was really good last night. He got the third star last night. He was really good last night. You have the bonks and the bumps and all that stuff. You have young guys. You have guys that you can grow, and you have guys. Forster is not himself, as you said earlier. So, if this team, those guys that I just mentioned, get to be themselves and get another year of growth, I think this Carolina series, they're playing kind of a little bit shorthanded, and they are battling in spite of what our follower said earlier.
Yeah, no, so here's the thing, Bob, with this, right? They were an underdog coming into this series, and everybody knew that. Everybody knew that they were going to be an underdog against Carolina. But now you're going up against them. Not only are you an underdog, but you're taking away your leading goal scorer from the regular season. You're taking away, after a couple of games, your best two-way forward. And then you have guys like Dvorak playing hurt, like really hurt. And you're just not 100%. And if you're going to compete with the Carolina Hurricanes, you have to play your A game at all times, right? That's the only way you could beat them. And, it becomes all the more challenging to do that when you're banged up the way you are. And the Flyers don't have the depth. And look, the other thing to take into consideration is how many young guys are playing. I mean, Denver Barkey's playing center. He's not a center, and he's playing center for you, right? And you talked about the chances in the first period yesterday. One of them is Porter Martone, who's a teenager. The other one is Alex Bump, a fifth rounder who's just 20 years old and now coming in playing in the NHL. Like these are kids. They've never really had this opportunity before, and they're learning on the fly, and it's all so fast. It's a whirlwind for them. There's a lot to you look at this and say, yeah, they're overmatched a little bit, but this is so beneficial for this group. So beneficial. Even if they get swept in this series, so beneficial. They're all going to be better for it going forward. And you should be excited about this team. Yeah, there's holes that need to be filled, but there's a lot of young talent on this team that's going to be here for a while, and it's going to make it a good team. That's the part you should be excited about, and not get caught up in the fact that, oh man, they got their doors blown off by the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round play. It's not that. It's not that at all. And I don't think anybody from the organization is looking at it that way either. I don't think that they look at it as getting their doors blown off. I don't care what the goal differential is in these games, other than game one, which was a disappointment. I think the rest of the series so far has been very, very close. Yeah. Even last night.
Yeah, even last night. Once those mistakes were made, once it was 1-1, and they just played undisciplined. I think I tweeted that at one point last night. They got to be a little undisciplined. Like Zegras one time had a penalty. Carolina was about to go off the ice, and Zegras wouldn't let it go and kept trying to go after the guy. And you're sitting here going, dude, be smart. You got a power play coming. Don't, and the referee's even trying to wave him off, and he just wouldn't go away. Finally, a teammate kind of pulled him away. I think it was after the hit on Sanheim. That's what it was. It was the hit on Sanheim along the boards that was bad. That was a bad. And Sanheim said in the locker room last night, right? A dirty hit, he thought. I think Zegras was going to kind of protect him, but just wouldn't let it go and get the power play. Be smart. And Taka talked about that a little bit after the game.
Yeah, I know that they were disappointed with that call. I in the moment and after seeing the replay, I thought that they got it right, that it was a penalty. There's no doubt it was a penalty.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? But I think that they got it right. I mean, I don't necessarily if I would have called it boarding, I would have probably called it charging, because I think that's what the part that's kind of missed here is Taylor Hall came from across the ice to make that hit. So you could see that he's coming the whole way and has a player in a vulnerable position and driving him into the boards. Like that to me is a charge. Why I don't think it was a major is because Sanheim starts falling before he gets hit.
Yeah.
That's, if you want my honest opinion about it. If Sanheim is already down and before Hall gets there and he drives him into the boards, then it's a 5-minute major for boarding and probably suspension worthy. But the fact is he's starting to fall as Hall's arriving. If he stays up, it's just a hard hit, right? If he goes down, it looks worse. So I think that it's a combination of the two. I think it's a penalty, but I also don't think it was a major, even though Sanheim thought it was dirty. But you're right. Like the Flyers and the other story I wrote this morning, Bob, was how they let their emotions get the better of them. A little bit too much, right? That's part of the problem too. You know, there were plays there. I'll tell you, the one that I found annoying was early in the third period. They're going to call a penalty on Keandre Miller for punching Travis Konechny in the face.
Right.
And look, Konechny drew 3 penalties in that game last night. People want to be hard on Konechny. And I understand why you're hard on Konechny. He drew 3 penalties in that game, okay? They should have just let that go. But Dvorak skates over and quickly just like pulls on the back of Miller's helmet. It was kind of innocuous, but he does it. The referees, and I think they got it wrong, but if you're the third guy into a situation, they're looking for that, and they're going to call you even if it's something ticky-tack. That they end up both going off, and it's not a power play for the Flyers. Now, Flyers probably wouldn't have done anything with a power play anyway, right? But my point is that's where you can't let your emotion get the better of you. And Christian Dvorak needs to stay. And he's a veteran player, right? And then later in the game, you know, Konechny's trying to start something up with Miller. Miller doesn't want to get involved, and Konechny just keeps it going. He gets 4 minutes. He gets I think it was a slash, a rough, and then a 10-minute misconduct. Like, you can't have that stuff happen. You can't have the line brawl happen at the end of the game with 26 seconds left. Like, don't let your frustration show through. You aren't leaving calling cards when you're down 3-0.
No,
right?
No. And Miller, it cracked me up. Konechny's trying, and Miller has to have a head on Konechny, right? At least.
Yeah.
And Konechny's trying to grab him from behind him. Miller's just looking at the ref, and he's like, I'm not doing this. I'm just not doing it. And he's laughing and smiling. Like, he can try to get me in all he wants. I'm not doing it, not doing it, not doing it. Like you said, the penalties pile up against the Flyers undisciplined, and there it was.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up this one other thing. We just got popped into the comments from Chris. He says, Anthony, this stuff between Tocchet and Michkov needs to be addressed. He's done nothing but have an axe to grind with the kid all season. I have 2 different thoughts on this, Bob, and I'll see what you think.
All right.
My first thought is I think that Tocchet has had a couple of missteps publicly when it comes to Michkov. I think that he's said the wrong thing at the wrong time, okay? I think beyond that, the way he's handled Matvei Michkov this year has been stellar, spectacular. And here's how I will defend that, because Flyers fans will come after me and they'll say I'm a shill for the organization and that he's ruining the player. I will tell you this. Find me one person in hockey who has a platform, who comments on it, former players, former coaches, analysts, whatever, people who do shows like ours, right? Find me one person in hockey that's not like a fan podcast who will tell you the Flyers have handled this wrong, that Tocchet has handled this wrong. You won't find one, because the people in the sport know that the Flyers are handling this as best they can, okay? There is a lot more to developing a young player, especially a young player who played in the KHL,
right,
than just go out there and let him do what he wants to do and score points like he did last year. There's so much more that goes into this, right? And the player has to learn to be a team guy. I'm sorry. There's not a person in the sport who will tell you otherwise.
Yep. Yeah.
Just sorry. It's the way it is. And fans don't want to hear that. And I'm sorry fans don't want to hear that. But that's the way it is. For
2 years now, like the coach, dislike the coaches, whatever you want, there's been a common denominator with, people questioning the way Tortorella handled Michkov. now questioning the way Tocchet handled him, there is a common denominator, and that's Matvei Michkov. There just is. You have to look at that honestly and openly. And even if you don't believe it, people like Anthony that have been around all the time and have stories upon stories upon stories about what is going on behind the scenes, breaking it down plain and simple to someone like me, I just come away with, and I said this line, to youth kids all the time. Coaches want to win. Coaches want to win. And if putting that person on the ice, court, field, whatever, gives them the better opportunity to win, they're going to do that. So Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella probably didn't have axes to grind against Matvei Michkov, and maybe they did misstep once in a while, but he's not giving them what they need, or he wasn't, or hasn't at times, however you want to phrase it. So there's a common denominator here, and I'm sure in a couple of years, maybe even this offseason, we'll find out more about what is keeping Michkov and his coaches kind of on the outs at times. And like I said, common denominator to me is what it is.
Yeah. And the last thing on it, Bob, is I think the Flyers still believe in Matvei Michkov. They do. They want him to develop, right? Sure. They still see him as, one of their top prospect. Maybe, you could debate that between him and Martone at this point, but one of their top two guys, and they want him to become the player that everybody wants him to become. But in order to get there, there has to be buy-in from the player.
Sure.
The player has to buy. And I think Michkov is the kind of kid that wants to be that guy. I think he wants to be a star player. What I think is where the disconnect is between the organization and the coaches and the player is the path to get there. Right? I think so I think that's the only difference between the two. This offseason is going to be the most important offseason for Michkov on a personal level, on an individual level. The things that he has to do in order to become that player, right? And will he listen to what the organization is requiring him? And this isn't just about his offseason workouts. Yes, that was a big deal last year, right? He admitted that he didn't work out last summer. He came into camp out of shape. He admitted that, okay? So the fact that everybody wants to kill Tocchet for being the one to put it out there, the fact is the kid admitted that it happened, all right?
Right.
It's more than that. It's building the relationships in the locker room with his teammates. It's focusing on the things that you have to do to play a team game and not an individual game, right? It's adapting to certain things that are different in the NHL than they were in the KHL, where they let him just do whatever the hell he wanted over there, right? These are all these things have to be part of Michkov's off-season work. And it's his job to do that. It's not about the Flyers. Look, does he stay around? Does he stay in South Jersey and train here and work with the Flyers staff? Or does he want to go back to Russia and do it on his own, right? And you don't know what's being done over there. So, there's a lot of factors that come into play here. It's on the player. 90% of it is on the player to do the things that if our bosses tell us to do something, right? If we do it, then our bosses are going to let us do our job, right? If we don't do it, they're going to tell us that we're not doing our job, and they're going to find somebody else to do our job for us.
Exactly.
That's just it's the nature of any business, and that's what it is here too.
Well, the nature of the business for the Flyers is to try to get a win in Game 4, which will be at 6:00 tomorrow night at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. Anthony and I will both be there, giving you coverage on Pattison. We'll see what happens, Ann. I think you and I both have our feelings, but we can keep them to ourselves.
Yeah.
Until a later date. But in a city of champions, you deserve champion legal representation. Wapner Newman in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, the premier medical malpractice and injury attorneys. Call 215-569-0900 or visit wapnernewman.com. All right, Ant, we do have another playoff team in town. They haven't won a game in their series yet either. They got blown out in the first game and made it a game in the second game. Joel Embiid doesn't play in Game 2 up in New York against the Knicks. And fighter's chance, close game all throughout. But, when push came to shove at the end, Sixers scored a basket with like 6:59 to go in the game. It was a three-pointer by Kelly Oubre that gave him a 3-point lead, and 99-96.
I was watching. I was excited. I was like, ooh, they're going to win this game.
They didn't get another field goal until kind of a meaningless layup with 1 minute to go from Tyrese Maxey. You can't go 6 minutes at the end of a game without getting a field goal. and that's what happened, and what wound up being a 108-102 Knicks win. They lead the series 2-0. Now, I wrote, because I got back to my hotel after the game, man. Now, how it goes through our minds, and let our listeners know. When you're a writer, sometimes the stories are obvious and all that, but you can't write the same story all the time. I'm going back to my hotel, and I thought, wow, there's a lot of intangibles going on here, and it's what I wrote about. Joel Embiid, I saw him that morning of Game 2, walk into the shoot-around. I think I described it as he looked like he was walking on nails. That's how, like, gingerly he was going in. So shocking that he didn't play Game 2? No, it really wasn't. He's got an ankle sprain, they're calling it, right? Hip soreness. So he was out. But during the game, Tyrese Maxey re-jammed the pinky that he's been wearing the splint on since March. Since March.
Yeah.
So he said that was a little bit of a factor in his dribbling. OG Anunoby for the Knicks, with about 3 minutes to go, went up and tried to dunk. Missed the dunk, lands, goes out to the wing, looks for the ball. Knicks make a shot. As he's running back on defense, he grabs his hamstring. Now, it looks like he's questionable for tonight. Earlier in the game, Josh Hart reached in and tried to get a ball and jammed his wrist. I think they're calling it wrist. And he's listed as questionable for tonight also, as is Joel Embiid. So there's some, little factors going on here. And with the Sixers, they have to be, although they got good minutes the other night from Dominic Barlow off the bench, they have to be fully healthy, I think, in order to beat this Knicks team, who's playing up near the best basketball in the NBA right now. In the East, they are. Take away Oklahoma City and maybe San Antonio Spurs, but the Knicks are playing good basketball. Sixers, if they're not fully stocked, if Embiid isn't back in there, and I don't know if they have a shot to beating the Knicks.
Well, I think, I found it interesting, when I was reading your story about the Knicks guys being hurt too, because I do wonder, though, Bob, I know the Sixers only play 6 or 7 guys. Knicks are a deeper team. I do wonder, though, I think Anunoby's a real impact guy.
Yeah.
Right? For them. And I do wonder if he can't go, how that changes the Knicks a little bit. Because even without Embiid, I thought the Sixers played a pretty good Game 2, right? I thought they played a really, really solid Game 2. And so if you take the same Sixers from Game 2, minus that 6-minute drought, and you take the same Knicks and take Anunoby out of the game, do the Sixers win?
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah. What I think will happen if Anunoby isn't there, you're going to see, and this sounds crazy because we see a lot of them anyway, but you're going to see more Jalen Brunson. You're going to see that Jalen Brunson that, had 35 in the first game against the Sixers. That will probably be more aggressive looking for us. He didn't score his first basket in Game 2 until, I want to say, maybe 4 minutes to go, 4+ minutes to go in the first quarter. I mean, still wound up with, I believe, like 25 or 26, whatever he had. But if Anunoby isn't there, I think that Brunson will try to be even more effective offensively than he always seems to be against the Sixers.
Yeah, but they didn't. They did a good job against him. I felt defensively.
I agree.
Yeah, and it was a variety of guys, right? It was whether it was Paul George or whether it was VJ Edgecombe or Kelly Oubre, any of the 3 that were on him. I think that they did a nice job. Not necessarily Game 1, but Game 2.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you you're not going to completely take Jalen Brunson out of the game, but if you can limit him and you don't let him go off like he's done in the previous games against the Sixers in the playoffs, then you have a chance to win. And now if you take away this, what I think is the second best offensive option for the Knicks, you say he's questionable for this game.
Right.
I think that gives you an opportunity. It gives you a path, right? But of course, it all comes down to, ultimately for this series, can Embiid get back and play at some point? And I think that's a question that needs to be answered, Bob, because when I know that they got blown out with him in the lineup in game one, but that was just, they had no time to practice. They came off of an emotional game 7 up in Boston and went right into playing game 1. You kind of knew the Knicks were going to win game 1 regardless. But I think now that, you have a little bit of time, a couple of days off, you come back home, the bodies can be rested a little bit. I think that if Embiid gets back into this, you can have them get back into the series, but he has to be able to play the rest of the series. I don't know if you think that he can.
Yeah, I don't know, and talking to an NBA executive on Monday or so, he just said, that it's going to be always so hard for the Sixers to win a championship with Embiid, as great as he is. And this guy's a huge fan of Embiid's, knows, what he is. He said the guy's not going to be able to stay healthy for 4 series if you need him. Like, he just can't. He can't stay healthy for 4 series. Like, I don't know the play that he got a sprained ankle or of the umpteenth times he fell on game 1, which he does every game, that he may have hit his hip. We wait in the locker room, and you and I text this. I'm like, yeah, 12 o'clock, game got over at 10:15. We're still waiting on Embiid to come out and talk. Well, the simple fact is he is getting worked on by a myriad of people to try to get his body ready after a game to play 2 nights later. That's just the fact. That's how much he has to go through in order to try to get on the basketball court. And it's a shame. A lot of it isn't his own doing. The falling, I'm sure, has taken its toll. I've never been 280 pounds and 7 feet 2 inches, and I'm only 5'11" and 185, 90 pounds. I've fallen an awful lot playing basketball throughout my career. I'm sure it didn't feel as rough as it did, to be 7'2" and 280 plus pounds. That takes wear and tear. And I didn't like the way they used him in game 1, Ant. Offensively, I didn't like their offense game 1, where they put 4 guys on perimeter and they dumped it down to Embiid to try to take advantage of Karl Anthony Towns, who he usually owns. I understand that, but do that in limited time. They did not at all make Jalen Brunson work on defense. Nothing. He stood in the corner and watched VJ Edgecombe stand there while the Sixers tried to keep dumping the ball into Embiid. I thought they did a better, much, much better job on Wednesday night, of making Brunson play some defense. And I do think it affects his offense a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Bob. I mean, you if you're just going to let the guy just play one end of the court and not have to exert himself at the other, you're going to get beat. You're going to get burned by him, especially as talented as Brunson is. I just think that he makes such a Embiid, I'm talking about here. I think he just makes such a difference in the offense. And I know that you just said, kind of Edgecombe just ends up standing out to the outside or whatever. But I just think that there's so many more things for the Knicks to have to worry about. They just really are. And I know that there's the rivalry with Karl Anthony Towns and all that stuff, and everybody wants to play that up. But I just think that the Sixers offense has so many more options just with him being on the court. Even if he can't move that well, right?
No question.
He just creates space for everybody else.
Yeah,
it's so important. And so I don't know, like, if you had a guess, do you think he gives it a shot tonight?
I think he's a go tonight. I do. Yeah. I think somehow he's going to find himself out there. I'll be heading over to Sixers shoot around as soon as you and I are done today. We won't get an update.
We'll wrap this up in about 12 minutes, just so you know, because I got to go to Voorhees myself. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Anthony and I don't get to sit still an awful lot, which is good. We love it, and we're more than happy to do it. But we won't get word today at shoot around. We have to keep an eye on the NBA injury report, which is updated every 15 minutes. So that's why we're always on our phones looking. And then if they decide something on him, they'll get in touch with the national media, because that's what sports teams do. They get in touch with the national media and let them know whether, he's in or out or whatever, and we'll react to it then. But I have a feeling he's going to go tonight. If you think about it, he's been off since Monday, a lot of treatment. It was funny. Tuesday morning when we went for Sixers availability after the Monday night game, Tuesday morning we went to the Sixers hotel. And they gathered the media there and then made the players available to us in a different room. Well, I went upstairs and I opened up a room, and there was Kevin Johnson, the team's trainer, who I've known forever. And there was about 7 tables set up just for players to lay there and get massages and get their bodies worked on. Because as you said, Ant, coming off of that Boston series on a Sunday or Saturday rather, then they come home to Philadelphia, don't get home until about 2 a.m. Then they leave later that day to go back up to New York. And, and then boom, you're opening on Monday. Now, some people were like, well, why didn't they just go straight from Boston to New York? Why did they have to come home to Philly in between? It may have been up to the players. I've heard this before. Coaches could go to the players and say, hey, guys, if we win, would you rather go straight to New York, or would you rather go home, sleep in your own bed for one day, and then go back? It'll be a quick turnaround. And maybe the players said, yeah, let's go home and let us sleep in our own beds for a night. I don't know. But that was a tough comeback, and we'll see how tonight plays out. I just hope the God Embiid is on the court because, like you said, Ant, they are a different team with him.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. All right, Bob. I know we only have about 10 minutes, so I want to get to the Phillies.
Yes,
I want to get to the Phillies, who've since the last time we did the show, they've been playing some good baseball on the whole. And I know last night was ugly, but that's only their second loss since the firing of Rob Thompson. Don Mattingly,
8-2, right?
Yeah, Don Mattingly's done a nice job with them, gotten them kind of back on track. But as is the case in Philadelphia, you always have to dwell on the negative. And Andrew Painter got torched last night. Yeah. And so far this season, his ERA is up. I forgot what the exact thing is. It's like 6.83 or something like that so far this season. He's getting hit and hit hard. He's getting hit on fastballs. And his fastball's above average speed-wise, velocity-wise. So it's about, command and control, really what it comes down to. Are you worried at all, or do you think that this is just, hey, first year in the majors, right? And he's just got to figuring it out and feeling his way. He's the number 5 starter for a reason. It's less pressure when you're in that role. He'll be fine. Or do you look at it and say, maybe the bloom is off the rose of this prospect a little bit ever since the injury, and he just doesn't know how to pitch with his arsenal after coming back from that Tommy John surgery?
Well, I look at it two ways, and I don't know if you were with me that night, but his first night pitching at Citizens Bank Park, I was at the game, and he was so impressive before the game in the clubhouse with his demeanor. Goes out and pitches an excellent game. He was so impressive after the game with his demeanor. All his teammates, we're talking veterans, Harper, Schwarber, talking about, man, this kid, he just knows what he has to do, and he's got to try to get it done, and it's his rookie year, and we'll be patient with him, but his demeanor is great. The fact last night that he said to Don Mattingly, no, let me go out in the 4th inning and pitch again because I got to learn how to get through this stuff. I thought that was phenomenal. So those are the bright sides that I see. The negatives are, I was driving in, as I said to you earlier, and listening to Larry Anderson's frustration with Andrew Painter. And Anderson, he was a minor league pitching coach and pitched in the majors for many, many years. He was saying, I just don't understand his thinking here. You just had a guy miss on a low and away curveball. He's probably looking for it again. Throw him a low and away fastball, because that is the one pitch that you have to have command of. If you are a major league pitcher, is a low and away fastball to any hitter. You have to have that command. And he was getting frustrated because Painter didn't throw it at the times Anderson thought he should have. And then when he did, he didn't have command of it. So I'm not going to get concerned after 5-6 starts of Andrew Painter in the major leagues yet. No, I'm not. But, it's something you certainly have to keep an eye on. And I love the way you said it. Has the bloom come off of this? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm still patient with it.
I'm patient too. I didn't have high expectations for Andrew Painter his rookie year. I still have high expectations for him as a pitcher down the line.
Right.
But being 22 years old and coming into the majors your first year, like, you're gonna have some growing pains. You're gonna have some road bumps. I didn't think a 6.89 ERA would be where he was at. I kind of thought it would be like high 4s, right? So I think he's got to find a way to improve this year. I still think he will. I'm with you. His demeanor is something and that I've always been impressed with for such a young guy. And I think he'll get back to at least that this season. But so far, there's been some question marks, and I think it's certainly worth monitoring. Another thing worth monitoring, Bob, is Alec Bohm was not in the lineup last night. Got pinch hit for the other night, and he doesn't start last night against a righty. They play Sosa against a righty. Are we nearing the end of the Alec Bohm era? I know Don Mattingly defended it, say they just want to give him a day, that he's going to come, he's going to rebound, he's going to bounce back. He sounds a lot like Rob Thompson when he says these things. I gotta imagine that there's a real concern there, and that they might be trying to think about what the alternative option could be to keeping Alec Bohm.
So I heard the pregame interview with Don Mattingly last night, and Scott Franzke brought up the sitting of Alec Bohm. And what Mattingly said concerned me a little bit if I was Alec Bohm, because he doesn't even know his first name. Called him Alex Bohm 5 times. Yep, Alex Bohm's going to be okay in this league. We know Alex Bohm just needs a reset, and Alex knows it too. And I was like, oh, my good Lord, he doesn't even know the guy's first name. So if you're Alec Bohm and you're sitting there hearing that interview, you're probably wondering, man, what kind of future do I have here? My manager doesn't even know my name. Now, I texted somebody about it last night jokingly. Yeah. And they said, that's all right. Charlie Manuel never knew anybody's name either. So it doesn't really matter. But, yeah, concerning, absolutely. We know what he's going through off the field and all that stuff. But, look, he's got no power. He's got no pull to left field. He sees fastball coming and he's just ripping it down the line or out of the park or whatever. It's just not there. And how long do you give it? You don't really have a back. What are you going to do? Say, all right, Edmundo Sosa, third base is yours, and Alec, we'll try to find you. We'll try to find a trading partner for you. I don't know, but concerning, hell yeah, and it's been too long now, right?
Yeah, it absolutely has, Bob. And I know we keep talking about it, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's not getting better. It was about this time. I know we got off to a slow start last year, but it was about early May when he started figuring it out and turning it around a little bit. Well, we're not seeing that this time around. And I don't know how much longer you can go on. And, you're right. They don't have an answer. Aiden Miller, the back injury, still not really playing ball. And
still not swinging a bat. That's crazy.
Yeah, although I've heard different stories on that. Like I've heard I've heard some people say he is, and the Phillies just aren't saying it, and then others saying that he's not. They're saying he's not. I don't know what the truth is there, but it's irrelevant. He's not going to be ready to go. Do you sit there and say Edmundo Sosa can play third base for the next month and a half, and then you're close to the trade deadline at that point, and then maybe you can make a move for another third baseman at that juncture? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, we've seen Sosa play well for 6 weeks in the past. Did a great job filling in for Trey Turner when he was hurt a couple years ago, right? Right. So I think maybe you can try that. You can think about that. And but I don't know. What do you do? This is a conundrum for the Phillies. It really, really is. Yeah. And the last thing on the Phillies is I wanted to kind of get your take on this. So Bryce Harper had a couple comments this past week that really kind of were a little perplexing. The first one was about how the team was just basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, during their struggles right before Thompson was fired, that they were just waiting for the shoe to drop. Like whatever the shoe was going to be, they were just waiting for it to happen before they kind of got themselves fixed. And I was a little perplexed by it. Like, dude, why don't you just go out and play? Like, why are you sitting around waiting for something bad to happen? Like, you can rectify that with your play. And then secondarily, he comes out and says Bryson Stott should be an everyday player. And then the very next day, Bryson Stott's not in the lineup against a lefty. Has Bryce lost a little bit of his gravitas with the organization? That's my question.
It's a great one. And my first thought was, Don Mattingly probably has a little I'm Don Mattingly. They call me Donnie Baseball for a reason. Love you, Bryce. Great player. Haven't done what I did in the major leagues, and you have a while to catch up to what I've done in the major leagues. Please don't tell me how to run my team after I've only been here for a couple of days. It wouldn't shock me if you get Mattingly in a room and said, was that done on purpose? And you get like a, No, I wouldn't do that. No way. No, it just so happened to fall like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't care who the player is. I don't mind a manager standing his ground and just I'm going to run the team the way I run the team.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Now, if Bryce needs to talk like that and still keep hitting the way he's hitting, go ahead, Bryce. Talk away.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Just go, Bryce, do whatever you got to do to still be the player that you've been, right? And keep going. Although I just think it's one of those situations where it's like I was a little bit more perturbed by the first comment, about, oh yeah, we were just waiting for something. No,
that makes no sense.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Just go out and play and try and win. You let your circumstances be dictated by how you're performing, not the other way around. Let your performance be dictated by the circumstances. But whatever.
Exactly.
Anyway. Well, that ought to do it for us here on the On Pattison Podcast. Until the beginning of next week, whether it's Monday or Tuesday, we'll let you know. We'll keep you updated. Thank you to Wapner Newman, Philadelphia's personal attorneys. They are our great sponsor here on the On Pattison Podcast. And Bob, I think it'll be you and Tim probably early next week. It really depends. It all depends what happens this weekend. Because if the Flyers are out and the Sixers are still going, it'll be me and Tim. If the Flyers are still going and the Sixers are out, it'll be you and Tim. We'll figure it out. Or
if Rory McIlroy decides to come on our podcast on Tuesday as he goes to Aronimink,
right? We're
playing the PGA.
We forgot to I even put a photo in the thumbnail of the PGA, and we didn't even get to talk about the PGA on the show. Do you have a favorite? Do you think, who do you like in the tournament?
What's funny? I'm going to watch. They're playing the Truist event this week in Charlotte, North Carolina at Quail Hollow, and I really like to watch the tournament before a major to see who I like. Rory had a string of pars yesterday. You always have to like Rory and Scotty Scheffler, and Cam Young is playing unbelievable golf right now. So I'm telling you, and I'm getting amped up, and people are probably like, what the hell are you talking golf for? Yeah, we're going to be out there at Aronimink. On Pattison is going to be out there from day one until the last shot to bring you coverage of something that's really cool for the Philadelphia area. Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Scheffler is the money line favorite. So you got to assume he's going to be up there near the top of the leaderboard. But I'm actually really looking forward to seeing the PGA at Aronimink. Last time I was at Aronimink for a national tour was the senior PGA. Yep. Back in, I think it was 2013, I want to say. Yeah, I was there for that. Yeah. Whatever year that was. And the funny story I have, and I'll leave you with this, Bob. There was a player on the senior tour back then whose name was Mike Sanfilippo. No relation. Wow. No relation. Okay. And I think it was after day one of the tournament, he was leading. And there was the leaderboard with Sanfilippo at the top. And so, of course, I had to take a picture. I was going to say, you better have. Yeah. I don't think there's any Coonies in the PGA tournament this year, Ansel. No, not at all. Not at all. But anyway, thanks, everyone, for tuning in with us, all 514 of you who watched us live. Thank you for being here early in the morning, especially without much promotion that we were doing this at 9 a.m. And like I said, we will be back with you next week. Don't forget to read all of our stuff over at onpattison.com. You can find this podcast also on Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Best place right here on YouTube, youtube.com/on Pattison, and you'll find us and find all of our podcasts as well. For Bob Cooney, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you